And so that's what these flavor scientists do.
Yeah, you were like, oh, is that mayo?
Right?
Yeah.
And there was some PhD chemist somewhere knows exactly which atoms to bond together to make it seem like your corn chip had mayo and pickles on it.
Just what else could they be doing with the brilliance?
Curing cancer!
Anything. Yeah.
But they're Dorito scientists instead. And I just think about that a lot.
Well, it's all right. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your Thank you for your service. I'm saluting right now.
Oh, God. No offense to anyone who was actually served.
We're cutting all this, right?
Oh, you bet.
Okay, good. Welcome to Monsters Conquer the World. I'm Matt, and I'm joined once again by Ralph.
Hello.
This is a podcast where Ralph and I yak about monster stuff, especially kaiju flicks. I'm a lifelong dyed-in-the-wool superfan, while Ralph brings a fresh, incisive perspective to the creature feature chaos.
That's what they say.
We're diving into 2016's kaiju dark comedy, Colossal. And this episode is brought to you by our patron and just cool guy that we know, Riccio.
Sweet, wonderful boy.
My darling boy, my shining boy. He achieved Godzilla status as our patron and said, hey, fuckers, watch Colossal, okay?
And we did it.
We acquiesced.
I usually don't like when people swear at me, but we did it.
We did.
Yep, we followed our orders. We're very...
It was not as militaristic as maybe I made it out to be.
You have watched the film.
It was very Clockwork Orange.
Watch the film.
With the wire eye spreaders and yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had never seen this before. It wasn't that I crossed my arms and said I don't want to watch this one. It was one of those movies where it came out. I saw the trailer and thought, that looks cool. And then just like life happens and I never got around to seeing it.
And it is a little out of your usual, I know the things that you get excited about and it's the big monster movies. And this is like sort of artsier.
Yeah.
Not as much smashing of things and more of like actual like introspection and things that we don't want to do all the time when we watch monster movies.
Right. Introspective is, I think, dead on. It's a thoughtful movie. It's more of an indie thriller drama that happens to have monsters in it. Right.
It's
and
actually,
I like that.
It's a lot of things at one time.
Yes. One thing that came up I was looking at reviews and things about the movie, and one thing that came up that I think is extremely fitting is the term genre bender. Yeah. I think this is big time a genre bender, and I love a genre bender.
It definitely is that, because you get halfway through and you're kind of wondering, like, what is this?
Where are we going?
Yeah. I had a whole set of ideas for the first half of the movie, and then the second half of the movie, it completely changed.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that quite a bit.
Yeah, we're doing spoilers, right? We can spoil this like some old ass milk.
I think we have to spoil it. So
to talk about it. Yeah.
This is on Hulu.
Yes.
So if you have Hulu, you could just go watch it. It's definitely worth watching.
Absolutely.
And especially if you're going to listen to this, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
To know what we're going to be talking about.
It's so spoiler free. Quick micro thoughts. This is a cool ass movie, and I absolutely. If you listen to this podcast, I recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. And if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, and we'll allow it.
Yeah. Hit pause on us.
Right.
And then make yourself a sandwich. Get yourself some Cheetos.
Yeah. Get
buckle up.
Get real comfy.
Strap in.
You're about to get fucked.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yes. Before we accidentally and drunkenly demolish downtown Seoul, in addition to thanking Riccio, I also want to give a quick thanks to our alluring and brilliant patrons. You know who you are.
Yeah, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you dang stinkers. So real quick, just to give a little background on where the doink this movie came from, this was directed by Nacho Vigalondo, who is not exactly a household name, but
what a name.
It's a great name, right? It
Yeah.
really pops. And I actually knew of this guy prior to this because he did a 2007 flick called Time Crimes, which is
Time Crimes.
Yeah, it's a
One word.
It's
Yeah.
right, all one word. It's a real goofy title, but it's another like clever, sci-fi thriller genre bender, and I would also recommend it. Like, there's no big monsters naturally, but well, I mean, it could have big monsters, but in this case, it does not. But it's another, like, it's sharp, it's dark, it's funny, and I think it's super worth checking out.
Yeah, we always see it come up in the menu, and we're like, oh, okay, Time Crimes, and then you move on.
It's such a goofy title, and I would just say, look beyond the rhyming single word cornball title.
I'm glad that I saw this one first from this director.
Yeah.
I heard that Time Crimes, from other sources, I heard Time Crimes wasn't so great. That's why we didn't watch it.
Fair enough.
It obviously sticks out when you come across the name.
Yeah.
But
it is entirely possible that I just have bad taste.
No.
And thought it was cool.
We know better.
The other behind the scenes name I want to throw out there is Bear McCreary. He composed the music for this, and if you have seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, you heard his work in that. Or if you are a Walking Dead fan, you've heard his work in that. He's his stuff is good. I like it.
Yeah, he does a really good job. I didn't know that he did these. I didn't know that he did this movie or Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I just thought he did Godzilla, and like that was like his breakthrough. Or
I mean, I would say it is, because the stuff he did for Godzilla was fucking wild. Like with the Japanese chanting and stuff is so like strange, but it feels perfect in hindsight.
I've got to assume though he wouldn't have gotten Godzilla if he didn't do Walking Dead first, right?
Oh, that's my guess.
Yeah,
because his work on Walking Dead is pretty iconic.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's some good shit. The other in front of the camera person that I want to name drop real quick, because she kind of is also part of how this even got made, is of course the star Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
She signed on before the movie even was funded.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she got a hold of the script, and it reminded her of Being John Malkovich, which she's a huge fan of, and that got her in the door. And I think once, it's probably pretty hard to sell a giant monster psychological thriller comedy, but when you can say, hey, I've got Anne Hathaway in it, that probably like loosens up the purse strings.
She's on board, but I don't know. I have thoughts about acting in this movie, and I put Jason Sudeikis in this movie is phenomenal.
It's crazy. His performance is fucking nuts.
And Anne Hathaway, to me, and this is totally just my opinion, but I've never been able to buy her as anything. You know, she always seems like acting.
Yeah.
Like, it's not theatrical, but I can tell that she's like a theater nerd who is acting. I don't know if that makes any sense, and I'm also explaining it terribly.
No.
But there's a way that people carry themselves if they've been in theater a long time, and then they go to film, and it's totally different.
Yeah. No, it's
sort of Disney-fied.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Or it's instead of a natural performance where your brain forgets acting is happening, it's she's acting.
Yeah,
it's
she's
just
acting.
Noticeable.
She's acting, and you can see that she's acting. And with Jason Sudeikis, since he's a comedian, I think like you actually have to be more convincing when you're doing comedy, especially as dry as he does it.
Yep.
So he really is able to like really fuck with you.
Yes.
Like to draw you in and then betray you.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean,
it's powerful shit.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
I agree with you 100%. I do not make it a secret. I think comedy actors are at a higher level of acting than most actors.
Yeah.
I think if you can do comedy, you're already acting in fucking hard mode. Anybody can look sad. If you can do shit that is funny and pull that off, to me, that like Jim Carrey, surprise, he was pretty good at dramatic acting.
Yeah.
Robin Williams, surprise, he was pretty good at dramatic acting. Like, it shouldn't be a surprise anymore when a comedy actor switches gears into something more dramatic and they fucking crush it.
The only issue that ever happens is when like you have a Zach Galifianakis or a Tim Heidecker, and it doesn't take that long, but the first time you see them do serious stuff, you're like, oh, you know?
Right. Oh, you have to switch.
They play it so dry.
Yes.
That you're like, you think that everything they say is a joke.
Right. You almost have to deprogram.
You have to go back but I mean, usually they're in movies where somebody gets cut up or something. So it doesn't take long before you adjust.
Right.
But
there is that period, you're right, where you have to kind of switch gears and go, oh, wait a second. Mm-hmm. This is not a bit.
And this was not all to crap on Anne Hathaway. I think she's a fine actress. I noticed that she's acting.
Right.
I don't notice that Jason Sudeikis is acting.
No, and that makes
he's actually just like an empty vessel that can be filled with a character. I'm worried about him.
Yes. It's man. Should we just jump straight into it?
Let's just
warp
story.
speed? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's the short version, because I want to kind of laser in on Jason Sudeikis because holy shit, it's out of control. But we'll kind of just bounce through the story as it starts. Yeah. So it kicks off because Anne Hathaway is our protagonist. Yeah. It kicks off with her getting kicked out by her boyfriend because she's kind of a party girl. She does a lot of drinking, and she gets kicked out and has to kind of start over in her own hometown. Yeah. She moves into her parents' old house, and she's. I hate to use this phrase, but I think it applies here. She's bad at quote unquote adulting.
Yeah, that is a bad phrase.
It's a gross.
But she is bad at it,
right? Like I feel like that's a succinct way to put her whole thing, her whole deal, because she does things like she just buys an air mattress and throws it in the middle of the living room at her parents' house and kind of just sprawls out on it, and just the kind of core life skills. And it's kind of fun to see a leading woman in a movie kind of fall into that character type, because I feel like that's more of a,
usually it's the dirtbag guy.
It's a dude, right? Like in a stoner bro comedy who's like, I just am bad at stuff. So it's kind of refreshing to see.
And we're supposed to relate to him, and I guess you're supposed to relate to her too.
Totally.
I mean, she is bad at being an adult, but I took that as more of like an extension of her like crazy raging alcoholism.
Oh, sure.
Because like every moment in the first half-ish, first third at least, she's like either blitzed or hungover.
Right.
So like I took that as like when I am, not at my best, like you just don't feel like going out and getting a mattress, like you just get the air mattress. Because when she gets a job, she holds down the job.
That's true.
Like she's an adult for sure. It's just she's got demons.
Yes.
Running up all through her.
Beetlejuice style.
Yes.
I think that's really important that she has that too, because if she showed up as this blameless saint, I feel like the movie wouldn't stick. It makes her more relatable, and it makes her more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it makes her relationships with Oscar, Jason Sudeikis' character, and her ex, Tim, it makes that all play out a lot more dramatically, I think.
It makes the when she comes out of that, it makes it even better.
Yeah.
And it makes other events down the line even more of a surprise. So
it makes her easy to root for, and you want her to kind of overcome.
So she starts out bad at stuff.
Yeah.
And then what do we find out from there?
Well, so she gets she moves back home. She's kind of trying to put some sort of life together, and then she pretty early on. She runs into Oscar, played by Jason Sudeikis, this childhood friend of hers, who just seems like a cool, helpful dude who kind of spots her.
Nice hometown boy.
Yeah, a lot of flannel. Drives a pickup truck.
But the first thing that I wrote down was I totally buy Jason Sudeikis as a small town guy, but also
he's
terrifying later.
God, dude, it's fucking wild. So, yeah, should we? I mean, I feel like we kind of set the stage. I mean, we also Oscar scoops her up, sees she's on hard luck, and offers her a job at his bar.
Yeah,
and helps her out with some shit, like brings her a TV and stuff, and kind of helps her
furnishes her entire house for her while she's going through this difficult time. And she begins the reason that she gets better is the crux of the monster stuff.
Yeah.
The reasoning for it is what she's walking through the park while she's drunk, and then she goes and falls asleep on her air mattress that we talked about, and then she wakes up the next morning and sees stuff on TV, right?
Yes. Yeah, so she has a late night at the bar, and yeah, like you said, she happens to pass through this playground on her way home, and so when she wakes up the next day, there's news reports of a fucking 300-foot tall monster in Seoul, South Korea, just trashing shit randomly, and then it disappears a couple minutes later.
And as she's walking through that park, you can see footsteps being left in the wood chips. Yeah. Which, I don't know, that stuck out to me, and I didn't know what was going on, but it was just like, that's going to be important later. And it was. Yes. So what they find out over time is that basically she's causing the chaos in Seoul. When she walks through this park, for some reason a monster appears in Seoul, South Korea, and just walks through.
It does whatever she does.
It does whatever she does. So when she scratches her head, it scratches its head, and she is knocking over buildings as she walks through this park and doesn't know.
Idea.
Yeah. Which, now that I'm saying it out loud, is the most insane thing I've ever said out loud.
It's crazy.
It sounds like a child explaining something, and someone might actually listen to this and not watch the movie first.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, big mistake. Yeah, no, I don't. When it happens in the movie, it makes sense.
Right.
Which, again, is kind of a wild thing to say, because what we've just described is nonsense.
And what I just described is something that's actually kind of cool, but it's going to sound like the dumbest shit in the world.
It might sound like the ravings of a lunatic.
Right.
But when you watch the movie and you're engaged and it plays out, it's this movie is paced perfectly.
Yeah.
They ratchet up the stakes at just the right speed, at just the right time, and what sounds like insanity when we're just two ding-dongs describing it, when it happens in the movie, you're in it. You're like, oh shit. It's this weird discovery that she makes, and I love how it plays out, because once she makes that connection, then she tries to explain it to Oscar and their two bar buddies.
Yeah, and they go, "What? No.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Are you, like, how drunk are you?"
Right.
And then she goes and shows them by demoing, I think, what is it, Oscar's terrible dance moves?
I thought they were hers, but it doesn't matter, really. They go to the park all together, and they're all drunk, and one of them is filming her, and the other one is watching the news on their phone.
Yeah.
So they can see the news from South Korea as she is making these grand gestures with her arms.
Yeah.
Which were dance moves.
Yeah.
So the monster's dancing.
Right. So there's no question now that she is controlling this monster.
So then
it's not
Oscar
a coincidence.
Walks in to, I don't know, he walked into the park for some reason. They figure out that he's a big robot.
Yes.
None of the rest of them are anything. It's just her and him. She's a monster and he's a big old robot.
Yes.
And you're going, okay, I guess since I've accepted everything else in the movie, I'm going to accept all of this too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of racking my brain. I don't know. Did anyone else ever step into that part of the playground at the same time?
They were all, yeah.
Okay.
And
I couldn't remember if other people had been like in that kind of rough area or not. I mean, it's explained later what's fully going on here, but I don't know if it's possible that other people could sync up with monsters.
Later in the movie, he's standing there like right next to his friend who and
okay.
he's knocking stuff down, and the friend is just
is
not even visible. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Which it's part of the movie anyway that is just them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. They get into there's a flashback later,
Yeah.
which I don't know. What did you think of the flashback? Because I mean, it establishes Oscar at what his whole deal is, but as far as explaining the monster connection, I didn't watch this movie and think, hang on, why do monsters happen when they go there? I kind of just accepted it as sort of like are you familiar with magical realism in literature and stuff?
No, not off the top of my head. I am not a well-educated person. So, but magical realism.
Magical realism is just a stripe of fiction where it's essentially the real world, but there'll be like an aspect or two that is fantastical or supernatural. Like,
right.
Liar. For some reason, liar is the first thing that jumps into my head because
that makes sense though.
Because it takes place in the real world. The only thing that's different is that a little boy's birthday wish came true.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He made a wish, and yeah, okay, I get it.
So it would be like if in Liar Liar there was a scene at the candle factory that showed that a ghost went into the candle and he granted, like, I don't.
Right.
Who gives a shit? The wish came true. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. So this is the same thing, I guess. At least from the way you explain it, that sounds like a similar thing, but. I guess we can say the reason that she was a monster and he was a robot is that they had sort of she had a monster in her backpack. You remember seeing that?
Yep.
So I think that it was like whatever they had on them, they projected into these things, and then it appeared elsewhere.
Right. They flash back. The flashback scene is like 25 years ago, and they're both kids walking to school, and they have this kind of violent showdown in this same geographical place at the same time, and there's like a lightning storm, and it like channels all this turbulent psychic juju into like you said, her monster action figure and his robot action figure, and that's kind of the.
I think a lot of the stuff when they're kids, what they're showing from a flashback is not meant to be taken as a literal happening. As much as like these events are just meant to depict what was happening in her when this happened, because when they flash back, just for people who maybe haven't seen it, they flash back to a time, and they do this at the end of the movie because that's what is actually dramatically
right. Oh yeah, of course,
logical. They really stretch it out across the whole movie
a lot. Yeah, that's true. I maybe shouldn't have jumped into it.
No, it's fine because we're here now, so we can do it. But they are both walking to school, and they're carrying projects that they made, like cityscapes, and I believe she made Soul.
Yeah.
And it blew away. Like a big gust of wind came, and it blew over a fence, and then Jason Sudeikis' boy character jumps over the fence and goes to get it for her.
Yes. She
hops over the fence after him and then sees him stomping the shit out of her project. So he appeared to be a nice guy and does this awful thing to her. So yes, there's a lightning storm after, and you see there's a shot of her little monster figure that she has in her backpack, which I think that's like when she's looking back on this, maybe she remembers there's a lightning storm or something like that.
Maybe meant to be more symbolic.
Maybe it's magic. Maybe it's some symbolism. But like basically like all the parts are there. Like you can pick up what is trying to be said with this moment. It's a very big moment, and like a lot of things in childhood, maybe when you're an adult, you might just go like, "Oh, what the fuck," you know, and then you move on with your life. But when you're a kid, and you worked on a project so hard, it's actually soul destroying.
Yeah.
Like,
oh.
So
it's like a knife to the gut when you're a kid.
So we've already given you the window into Jason Sudeikis' soul. So what happens is she figures out that she's killing people in Seoul, South Korea. And she starts to feel bad, so she cleans up her act. And after that, Matthew,
after that,
it picks up.
Yeah.
Business has just picked up.
Yeah.
Because do you want to take this?
No,
okay.
I'm like wrapped. Actually, it's like I'm in it again.
Okay. So Jason Sudeikis, after she has cleaned up her act, and you know you've seen that he has a bit of a crush on her, or at least some kind of feelings like that. And what happens is she's working at his bar, also as sort of a like I'm going to clean up my act sort of thing, and he just starts abusing her services. Like anytime he needs anything, if he needs a beer, if he needs the toilet cleaned, or anything, he makes her go do it. Her boyfriend comes to visit. He totally wrecks it by like being the creepiest fucker you've ever seen in your life.
Oh yeah,
creepier than The Shining type shit. Where you're like actually afraid to look in a man's eyes.
Yes. So it takes a turn. Tim, quote unquote, on business, quote unquote, happens to be in town.
Tim, her English boyfriend, who I also don't like, but for way different reasons.
Tim is outwardly and obviously kind of a manipulative dick, whereas
sort of, but also you can tell they've been through a lot of shit together.
Yes.
Where like she's put him through a lot where maybe he's not at his best, you know?
Oh, sure. No, there's definitely with Tim and Gloria, there's clearly some, a give and take. They both wronged each other in different ways.
They're not good points for each other.
Right. But at least with Tim, you pretty much know what you're getting into.
He's a person. He's somewhere on the spectrum of normal person.
Yes. Whereas Oscar lures you in by being this great friend, the kind of person you want to have when you're down on your luck.
Right.
Kind of a strong figure that can help you through a tough time until he's not, until, like you said, suddenly he's barking orders at you and belittling you in front of his friends. And so when Tim comes to town and visits the bar, the scariest, most intense scene in the movie happens, as far as I'm concerned. My fucking blood ran cold during this whole thing. Because Oscar flies into this monologue about what the most irresponsible thing he could do at the bar is. And there are other people in the fucking bar, like, trying to get a cup of coffee. He screams at them. He starts throwing chairs. It never turns into like scenery chewing over the topness. It just feels like a real person has a screw loose.
He just looks directly into Tim's eyes and says, "What do you think is the most irresponsible thing that you could do in this bar?" And then he just lets it sit for a little bit, and then he says, "I'm going to show you." There's obviously way more tension than I just gave you, but like he just pulls out a big old firework.
It's the size of like a barrel.
Right. And he sets it off in the bar.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You better clear out, everybody." And just sets this thing off in the bar.
His bar that he owns.
His own
and
bar.
Like restored.
Tim obviously is like, "Hey, I'm getting out of here." And he's like, and then Jason Sudeikis says, well, you're leaving, but I'm pretty sure Gloria's not going to leave.
Yeah.
And she doesn't.
Because, and I don't know if we had covered this already, but when Oscar makes his heel turn, he starts forcing Gloria to drink again.
Yes, we did not cover that, and that's very important.
He noticed that she stopped drinking, and when she's not drinking, it's harder for him to control her. So he says, you're going to drink, or I'm going to go to Seoul and kill 10,000 fucking people.
That's his big threat, is he... It's, I mean, I guess I
got chills just thinking about it. It's extremely upsetting.
It really is. And I was going to say, it's a lot like cults.
Yes.
Where they're very sweet to get you in, and then they just won't let you leave.
Yep.
And that's, I think, really
that's like a perfect analogy. Yeah.
That is the very distinctive thing about cults or that sort of thing.
Abusive relationships too.
Yeah, is
if you leave me, I'll kill myself or some shit like that.
Right. You're not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it, and it's just one of those things that he'll do anything. He'll do or say anything, and he'll like kill a bunch of South Koreans for no reason,
just to keep you under his thumb.
Right?
What the fuck, dude? And what is doubly insidious to me is, and I can't remember where this falls chronologically in the movie, but they have an altercation at some point. I think this is before the most irresponsible thing I can do scene. There's Gloria and Oscar have this altercation at the playground, and she smacks someone across the face, and and we see the South Korean point of view, which is the big monster slapping the big robot in the face, and it becomes this viral sensation.
Oh, and they're very happy about that. Yeah. And he starts to want to perform after that too, where he's like, okay, we're going to the park, and you're going to hit me again.
Because they're getting business at the bar because people come to watch this on his big screen. But he flips a shit that night. That's the first time he gets really aggressive and violent with her. And then the next day, it's all crocodile tears. It's all, he's the sad sack in his house, and he's apologizing profusely. Oh, it'll never happen again. I was drunk. This, that, and the other, just saying anything to get her back on his side. And that's another just classic manipulator, abusive relationship thing. And it just, this is one of the scariest giant monster movies ever. And it has nothing to do with the giant monsters.
It has nothing to do with the monsters.
It's a psychological thriller with a twist.
Right. And it's not, other psychological thrillers you sort of see it coming, like, the turn, like there will be more hints along the way in the first part of the movie that this person's not quite on the level, and they're not totally with it. But for some reason this movie totally tricks you, where it's like, I like this guy, he's cool. Not cool, I don't know. He's really nice and enjoyable, and you probably want to hang out with him. And then he just so quickly flips. And I'm not sure if it's like that we're supposed to be going along on her journey the whole time. So maybe it's just that she didn't see it coming because she was so fucked up. And maybe the hints are buried because of that. Or
I can't really speak to that because since I didn't see the movie early enough, but I am a fan of big monster stuff. Sudeikis' heel turn is one of the things that unfortunately I did know about going in.
Okay.
So, but I will say this, I don't think they dropped any big hints prior to him starting to get shitty on like a more mundane level.
Right.
And I think what you said is dead on. I think it's that we're supposed to sort of experience this from Gloria's POV.
Yeah.
And she's in such a vulnerable, kind of scrambled state that she didn't see this coming, and she didn't remember what he was like as a kid. And that's why the flashback reveal at the end is so powerful, is because it's finally all clicking for her. Like, oh, he's always been a sack of shit.
Right. The whole time, the whole time you're basically following along, and with her, and at the end of the movie, like, the triumph is her triumph, but what I'm saying is, in the first half of the movie, you might actually be forgiven if you kind of like understood his position more.
Sure.
Because he was a relatable character, and you're like, okay, he's just a guy's helping out, and like, she's in trouble, and like,
this is cool of him to do. Like, how what a good friend Jason Sudeikis
what a nice guy
is.
bringing by furniture that he's not using anymore to like
help out his friend. Yeah,
right. I think it was extra furniture that he brought. Right, it wasn't like he went and bought it.
Right. Well, and it's interesting when we only see the inside of his home once, and it's during the big fake apology scene, and there's just shit everywhere. He's like a pack rat or a hoarder
you're
or
right.
something.
Yes.
And so I don't think the movie ever like spells this out explicitly, but I think he is some kind of hoarder pack rat, and that furniture he was giving her is just extra shit he's got around the house because he's fucking crazy.
Because he can't let anything go.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. I mean, when you really get down to it, they're both so messed up.
Yes.
They're such messed up people, and I mean, you just kind of figure out that like she's kind of messed up in some small part because of what he did to her when they were kids, because like I said, when you smash a something you worked on for probably more than a couple nights, like, that's just soul crushing to a kid. So,
especially when it's served up because it mirrors adult Oscar, it's served up in this way where it seems like he's helping at first.
Yeah.
And you almost think maybe he gets
right.
some kind of
follows the same
joy
pattern
in that. Yeah.
Yeah, he likes to flip it on people.
Yeah.
And actually do the wrong thing.
Right.
Which is serial killer stuff.
Yeah.
Where like what's his name? Like BTK and all that. Like he got a sense of joy out of like approaching children or something like that and acting like a nice guy, and then murdering them later, or their parents or something. So it's very twisted. Like, you don't get the sense that he's so far that he's gonna actually be a serial killer, but he kind of was.
Yeah. Just not in a direct way. Like, he went out and killed who knows how many South Korean people.
Yeah, exactly. They set up the psychology where it's like, well, he's actually a killer. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
This movie is really clever, and it just consistently does stuff. I've watched a lot of giant monster movies. This one does a lot of shit I've never seen in one of these movies before. One of my favorites is kind of earlier on, when Gloria figures out what's actually happening, and she's like, oh shit, I accidentally killed so many people. And there's this fun like mini plot where they go find somebody who speaks South Korean, and they piece together this apology note, and then as a big monster, Gloria goes back to South Korea and writes in the dirt, hey, I'm really sorry.
Right.
This
it
was
won't
all an
happen
accident.
Again.
And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's so great. And they cut to the bar, and this is after the monsters have become like a thing to come view as a group at the bar. And there's one like random extra who is me.
Yeah.
Because he goes, I knew it. I knew he was a good guy monster.
Right.
And that I loved seeing that spelled out so blatantly like that.
That is, like you'd be watching every night.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be that big of a monster. If something 20 feet tall showed up, fuck yeah, that's my night every night until it's not in the news anymore.
Not to diminish that, but I had something on my mind. But when you were talking, I thought, she says she's very sorry. She writes it in the dirt. What a crazy thing to put in a movie, like just funny and at least.
Yeah.
But when she comes up against that moment where she's like, "Oh, I'm actually killing people," that's when she takes all of her damage and she starts to clean it up. Like, she starts to figure everything out. Yep. When he figures out that he's killing people, he's like, "Yeah, I can use this."
Yeah.
So it's sort of a study in in total opposites, where like one person has empathy and that actually messes them up in a way, and then the other person has none whatsoever. Yeah. And that messes them up too. Like, he knows that he can't connect to people. That's why he's trying to keep her around, you know? It's sort of like when you don't have that feeling of empathy or togetherness or like being a part of the human race, that's when people start going that direction.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very interesting to like see these two people next to each other, and they get along sort of on the surface, but then when you start getting into it, oh boy.
Yeah, for real. And it's interesting that as much of a like scary sociopath as he is, they never fully want to dehumanize him, because even at the end when Gloria figures everything out, she's like, "Oh, you hate yourself. You're such a sad person."
Yeah.
And that made me nervous, because at the very end of the movie, which I love how this movie resolved itself. There's a hint as to what the finale is going to be, and it's that in her room, in her house, she's got like news stories and things pinned up about the monster, and trying to figure out what the hell is this, what's going on. And one of the things that's in there is a map with a thread connecting wherever they are in the U.S. with Seoul, South Korea. And they have a big altercation, and it the house gets trashed a little bit. And when she comes back, that map is flipped upside down, hinting to the audience that the playground to South Korea connection also works the other way. And when I saw the upside down map, that light went off in my head, and I was like, "Oh my God, please let her go to South Korea." And she did, and it summoned the monster at the playground, and she scoops up Jason Sudeikis as the monster, and
just tosses him.
Well, right. But before she yeets him into the sunset, I was so scared they were going to go for some whack-ass like moral victory thing where she would hold him and be like, you shouldn't be bad, and I'll be the bigger person and set you down.
Oh, no.
No, fuck that. It. Launches him. It's so satisfying.
He totally earned that.
Yeah. There was the moment where I'm like, "Oh my God, please, you have to eat him or something or smash him, please." And
she does scream in his face, and that's a really good moment.
Yes, it is. It's so that whole wrap up is so cathartic, because there's a fake out where you think she's getting on the plane to go be with Tim, and like that would be like. I mean, it would be good for her to get away from Oscar, and like, okay, sure, that would be a sort of good ending. But then they flip it on you at the last second, and no, fuck that. Monster, kill the guy. And it's just the perfect catharsis after all of this buildup, after all of this, ratcheting up the tension and ratcheting up the stakes so smoothly. I just really like how this movie ends.
Yeah. Well, I do like the whole thing. I like the whole thing as just like, I'm going to watch this once, take in all of these very cool, I don't know, what would you call them? Emotional, like, packets? Like, I don't know. All of these different ideas that they throw in there. I loved watching it the first time. I'll probably never watch it again. Partially because it's such a head fuck.
Yeah.
And also just because, like, I feel like I got it, Right. You get through it, you're like, I get it. You didn't really hide anything.
Right. There aren't like a wealth of things that will reveal themselves on a second viewing necessarily.
Right, exactly. So but it is a really good movie.
Yeah.
But it's more of just like a good movie than a good monster movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say the monster stuff takes a backseat. Like it is kind of a pivotal piece of the movie, but it's not necessarily the focus of it. The focus of it is this nightmare relationship that unfolds with Gloria and Oscar.
Right. And
it's like single white female with a monster.
Right. And it's soul, right? And the whole time I was like hoping that it wasn't actually soul, like a
such
homonym,
right?
And it is.
Yeah,
you know, like they
is.
want you to think she goes deep into the heart of her soul.
She has to reconnect with her soul.
She has to yes. And then she appears as a monster on the other side of the world, picks up this human and tosses him away. So, I mean, whatever. I just didn't want to be able to predict that, you know?
Right.
I wanted to be surprised, and I wasn't. So, but yeah, it's a very, very solid movie. And we covered the shit out of this movie, too.
Yeah. There's a couple little things. Actually, there's big thing. There's one big thing I want to talk about.
Okay,
and that is another movie called War of the Gargantuas.
Okay.
Which we may have talked about this before, but
No.
it's... Oh, okay.
Wait, maybe.
Maybe
Wait.
off podcast we might have talked about it.
I don't know what we say to each other anymore.
I don't either.
And when we say it.
So I'm going to re-say this, and if it's something I've said before, it won't be the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Ironically. So War of the Gargantuas is probably my favorite Toho monster movie that doesn't have Godzilla in it.
Okay.
And this Colossal is War of the Gargantuas.
Oh.
In that... Not in that there's like body hopping alcoholics and shit like that, but the beats of two characters, one being this kind of trusting and kind person, and one being this like ghoulish little shithead sociopath.
Right.
But in War of the Gargantuas, they are two giant monster characters, and the Gloria monster, Sanda, goes through all the same shit where she meets Gyra, the Oscar monster, and is like, oh wow, another thing like me. Awesome. Like let's work together. Let's be good together. Little does Sanda know, Gyra fucking eats people and is a evil shithead. And it's the whole same back and forth happens where Sanda gives Gyra a second chance. You know, Gyra, they're nonverbal because they're monsters.
Yeah.
But Gyra does the same thing of manipulating Sanda and trying to, and it ends with a big showdown. And the showdown in Colossal, the human showdown, where they're kind of fighting each other and also racing each other out of the house, to me is the most giant monster shit that happens in Colossal. That you know what I'm talking about? That brutal beatdown fight in the house where they're breaking chairs over each other and fucking snarling at each other. And at one point, Sudeikis jumps in the pool and swims alongside her, and he's just eyeballing her. I'm like, holy shit! They're acting like kaiju. They're people, but this is some monster shit.
Yeah,
and it just like that happens in War of the Gargantuas, where the one monster is betrayed by the other, and it's this powerful emotional buildup and catharsis when they finally beat the shit out of each other. We got to watch War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a great fucking movie. But yeah, that's another light bulb that went off in my head watching this. I'm like, oh my god, they made War of the Gargantuas like by accident, and then that made me really happy.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is the director, before the movie came out, he said in an interview that he had come up with the cheapest way to shoot giant monster stuff, and he was very pleased with himself for coming up with this, but also kind of relished the fact that it would make people angry when they saw it. And I didn't know specifically what he meant prior to watching the movie, but when you watch it, it's the scene where Sudeikis just starts stomping the wood chips.
Yeah.
And you just hear thousands of people screaming and buildings crumbling, and it's the the scariest and worst shit that Oscar does, and it's achieved without any special effects, and it's extremely effective. Like if the movie hadn't built up and hadn't progressed emotionally to that point, that would have played off as silly. I think it would have been kind of funny to see an adult man stomping around and hear screams, but since they carried the emotional build-up so well and so smoothly to that point, I was fucking like heartbroken when he was doing this. I'm like, you gotta stop, you asshole.
He was it was probably a fun day on set when with some comedian there just like stomping the ground and
Right.
yeah.
But in context, it's heartbreaking and nightmarish. And yeah, Mr. Vigalondo, you're right. That is probably the cheapest way to shoot a monster scene.
Yeah. I forgot that his heel turn started because she had sex with Eli Manning. Is that right?
Yeah, she doinked. I think his name was Joel.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
movie.
Joel.
Good old Joel, the cute boy.
I just thought it was really nice of them to put Eli Manning in the movie because he's not a very good actor.
No, they didn't give him too many lines.
No, you can't overburden him with that sort of thing.
No, that actor is named Austin Stowell.
Austin Stoll.
And according to the internet, he is quote unquote best known for being in Dolphin Tale 1 and Dolphin Tale 2. Some other credits that I was tickled by, or one other, the guy who played Tim, Dan Stevens. He's from Downton Abbey.
Didn't know that.
Pretty legit. His more embarrassing credits include Night at the Museum 3, where he played Sir Lancelot.
The third one.
Yes, the third Night at the Museum.
No money surely came in for the third one, right? I know the first one was like a blockbuster.
Yeah, first one was a big hit. Ralph, I didn't know there was a third Night at the Museum.
I didn't know either.
That's some straight-to-video shit.
It must have been.
Oh, but so he's doing okay. He's in Downton Abbey now, so...
Yeah, whatever.
I mean,
he's working.
I was also happy to see Tim Blake Nelson as Garth, who I just know as the one guy from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's just a character actor that I like. He's the cokehead that I feel shitty saying that, because Oscar calls him out as a cokehead, and it's like... Fuck you, man. I kicked the junk forever ago. Like,
right, because he's just drudging up anything that had hurt people.
Yeah, because Oscar is the real monster, and he's just a shitty guy.
Right. The thing is, I'm thinking about that. I still feel betrayed by Oscar.
Yes.
Because I did like him the first part of the movie.
You know, it's when you said, I like this, but I'll never watch it again, it made me think of... There Will Be Blood, which I had the same reaction to. And it might seem silly to compare these, but I felt so fucking betrayed by Daniel Plainview that I was like, this was an excellent movie. It was very well made. I will never watch it again.
Yeah. Actually, I just watched The Master like a couple weeks ago with it was a PTA movie.
Yeah, about L. Ron Hubbard, right?
Well, not about L. Ron Hubbard, but based on L. Ron Hubbard, where
I
it's cult stuff. And again, it's like you see the charisma and like you kind of admire like how good he is at it. I don't know if you feel that. Maybe that's just me. But it's just kind of like I like to hear a good orator. Yeah. And I can admire that.
I mean, I think as humans, we all kind of are drawn to that.
Right,
yeah.
like a good politician.
Yep.
I can like kind of watch a good politician and be like, you know what? Bill Clinton, he's really good at this. Yeah. You know, like you watch him talk, he's fucking good at it. I know that he's a bad person.
It's a type of performance though, right? Like it's dressed
like
up as
acting. Yeah.
It's dressed up as like I'm communicating information to you, but it's more than that. It's like a weird nonfiction one-man show. It's basically stand-up but not jokes. It's trying to inspire you. And it's such a manipulative thing.
Yeah, and people like LRH and all, like you don't
they
know,
all do that.
You don't know how much they are actually making up, and they know that they're making it up, or they don't, or you don't know how much they actually believe in, or do they think that anything that they make up automatically becomes real? Because some people are like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
which is scary in a whole different way.
I could watch that movie and just be kind of like, well, that's kind of impressive that he can just do that. Yeah. And knowing that there are other people in the world that can just do that. And, you know,
more than we think. I think there are a lot of these people out there, and that scares the shit out of me. And maybe they don't all have a public platform, but maybe you know a couple in your life.
There are, but it's sort of what those guys do is what pretty much any like performer can do, but it's just like how they choose to use it.
Right.
You know, like an actor can use their acting skills for good or for evil, and for whatever reason, people like L. Ron Hubbard just choose to use it for that purpose.
Usually use it for evil, yeah.
Right. So to see a person in your life that is good at storytelling, like, don't distrust them.
Oh, sure. No, yeah,
Like,
that's a crazy rabbit
good
hole
at
to fall
making
down. And,
shit up.
right, yeah, I
Like-
didn't mean to imply that every creative or charismatic person is a horrible lizard. But there's a couple.
Maybe they are, though.
Right. I mean, it's possible. I feel like for every Martin Luther King Jr., there's like 20 to 50 L. Ron Hubbards. Do you think that ratio is about right?
No.
No?
You think there's 20 to 50 L. Ron Hubbards for every Martin Luther King?
Yeah.
No. Martin Luther King was really damn good at what he did. But yeah, he definitely chose to do it for good. But 50 L. Ron Hubbards?
Maybe I'm overly
Maybe you're
pessimistic.
right, now that I'm thinking about it.
And let me frame
The
this
thing is,
in a less
maybe you were right, Matt. Are you hearing me? And maybe that ratio is actually large. Maybe that gap
could
is
be
larger.
worse, right?
Yes.
Like, and I just want to clear up, because I don't know if maybe I might have phrased it insanely. I just meant to say that for every like charismatic
I'm deep in a hole
speech
right now. Sorry.
person, for every person who uses those powers for good, there's a bunch that use it for ill.
So now, okay, we're on this.
We've fallen down a very strange
you
rabbit
bet.
hole.
Is one of those? Would you say that like he's good at that sort of thing?
No, he does.
Because he's got some weird magic that he's pulling on people.
I don't want to put this in the podcast. But
No, we'll cut it.
Okay, good.
Or put it at. But anyway, just to bring it back, whatever, we got off track. Well, it'll be a really bad cut.
Oh, come on, Ralph! You can't wave that magic editing wand and make it smooth as butter.
We just went. No, this is just going to be real rough.
We went into a bit of a tangent.
A bit of a tangent about different people, prominent ones, and now we're back.
We are.
Oh my god. The world is hell.
I was thinking about that on the way over.
Well, it is, and the worst part is it's not like, we're all trying to simplify it. It's really you can't. That's the thing. You can't identify these people until
it's too late.
Yes, are fully dominating you.
Yeah. Right, and that is the arc that Gloria has. Is she?
Yes,
she gets roped in by this, and that's one thing I really want to give this
movie.
Thank
you for bringing it back to the movie.
Hell yeah, I want to give this movie super credit for doing a skeezy, quote unquote, nice guy as the villain without falling into obvious, easy cliches. Because how much would this movie suck if instead of this upstanding kind of good friend, shoulder to cry on, pillar of the community, what if instead of that the Jason Sudeikis character was the fat, gross neckbeard living in his mom's basement? I think in a lesser movie, instead of pulling this excellent bait and switch, they would have made the Jason Sudeikis character an obvious fedora wearing milady,
or handsome, but you can see that there's something wrong.
I
like
see
the
what
kind
you're
of
saying.
handsome where he's too handsome.
Yes,
in
there's
a way
something off about him,
right? Where you're like, what is he doing? But no, Jason Sudeikis is a nice, like pretty good looking dude, and just looks like a dude.
He seems
who's
genuine.
a nice guy. Yeah,
he seems very genuine. They did it's a fucking fantastic villain.
Absolutely phenomenal. That's the thing that sticks with me from this movie is how well they did that turn. That will be what I take with me, and I could tell that when it was over, and especially after talking about it now, like that's just gonna be what I remember.
I think that's a totally fair assessment. The monster stuff is super fun and it's important to the movie, and I liked it a lot because it went places that I haven't seen in other monster films. But the heart of this movie is, holy shit, Jason Sudeikis deserves an Oscar.
He probably should have gotten an Oscar for that.
It's
if
just,
the world was fair.
Yeah, man, it's very good. One other thing that I liked about the director and kind of getting more into the monsters.
Before we get off on a director thing, let's get off on a Jason Sudeikis thing.
Ooh, yeah.
I just wanted to... Anyway, he can't... he doesn't have any sense of taste or smell. Did you know that?
Like, in real life? For real?
He can't.
Whoa.
So, something's wrong.
Oh, no! He's missing those sensors.
A piece of himself. That's why he could dive into the character.
Oh, my God. What if, Ralph? I tapped into my inability to taste or smell and adopted it to my inability to feel empathy.
Yeah.
That's wild. Fuck. Ralph, can you imagine not enjoying the smell of fresh cut grass or the taste of a chocolate chip cookie?
Those are the two senses that I care about. The rest of this crap could go.
Oh, yeah. Just ditch it.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I could probably...
Just taste.
But
then they're linked.
They are linked up. Yeah, you have to have both. I was just going to say, of all my senses, I would probably ditch smell.
I only want to shove things into my mouth.
Bingo.
Yeah.
This is... Oh, man, Ralph, we're on the same wavelength.
Right, yeah, exactly. Wait, if I could not have the nose and have the mouth work, then it'd be fine.
Fucking forget it. That's the dream.
Yeah.
You could smell turds all day, then turn around and eat a slice of pizza.
And yeah.
Amazing. That's the dream. I just wanted to. Another quick thing that I thought was neat was that the director had no input into what the monsters look like, and it's not like he wasn't allowed or they didn't do it. He was just like, no, CG artists, just do your thing.
Whatever you think is cool, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and his reasoning was that he wanted the monsters to really feel like something from a monster movie. He wanted it to feel like a natural extension of that genre that they were kind of spoofing. And I think it plays out really well. The robot looks awesome.
Yeah.
The monster, Gloria's monster, has like a very strange, like a broad face and like a short stubby tail. It almost reminded me of like a locust or a grasshopper with the weird butt tail.
Yeah, it was a weird shape.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's different, and I liked it. And I think it's neat that the director was like, no, that's all you guys. I don't know how to draw for shit. Like, that was another thing he mentioned, was like, I can't do art, so you guys do it. And it
is interesting that he ended up being a robot, though, right?
Soulless.
Yeah.
Levels.
And she's this little topsy-turvy creature.
Wacky little gremlin.
Ooh, look at me!
So yeah, I think we squeezed the juice out of this bitch like immediately.
We juiced this thing a long time ago, and then I had to say Jason Sudeikis didn't have a sense of taste or smell.
That's what it was. That's a great nug though. I'm glad you dropped that.
It is. But boy, did we... And we had another tangent that we had to cut earlier. This has got to end.
R.I.P. to Ralph for editing this. Thank you for your service.
We got to play Call of Cthulhu now.
Yeah.
So
Shadow episode, baby.
Yep. So we should do our thank yous, yeah?
Yeah, let's wrap this big boy up.
All right.
What did you think of the movie? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would recommend everyone see it and just watch it on Hulu or whatever. I personally would not buy it.
Sure.
I don't feel the need to own it or anything, but it's an experience. I mean, check it out. It's cool. I fall into the same camp. Like, it's absolutely worth seeing. As a genre fan, it pushes those buttons and does interesting things. And then just as a film fan in general, it's just a great thriller. It would have been great if theaters were actually like sort of more vibrant as far as lower level movies.
Yeah.
Like to just go and see it in the theater and then it just kind of goes away. That's kind of, I think, ideally how you would take in this movie.
Yeah, it's a one and done. You don't need to, like you said, you don't need to buy it. You're not going to rewatch it every 6 months or something.
Yeah, but the theater would help, I think. That's all.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice if mid-budget movies weren't essentially extinct, but what are you going to do?
I'm not getting off on another tangent.
No more tangentos.
Nope.
So yeah, let's get into those. Hey, let's get into those thank yous, Ralph. Ralph?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Ooh, you beat me to it, you stinker. But yeah, Ralph made our theme song, Harkzilla, and it's awesome, and he edits and produces for us, so that's kick ass. I also want to thank Riccio again for putting this movie on our radar. Riccio, awesome choice, my dude.
Yes, and thank you for giving us money for it.
That is also a big part of it.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Wonderful choice.
Pretty fucking
on your
cool.
part.
And I do want to also just rethink our other glamorous and wise patrons. Ooh. Like Sacagawea, you guide us safely through uncharted territory and help us survive in the harsh wilderness.
Oh. Well, that's very nice. Yeah. It's a nice sentiment.
Thank you. Be sure to visit monstersconquertheworld.com for more monster-mashing, kaiju-crushing chaos. We're on Twitter at MonstersConquer, Facebook.com/MonstersConquerTheWorld. And, you know, if you like what you hear and you want to gain dominion over man and beast alike, go to www.patreon.com/MonstersConquer and become a patron. All patrons get access to a top-secret patrons-only Discord lounge, and at the $5 level, you get access to a parallel universe full of shadow episodes. But, you know, if you can't become a paid patron, you can make a huge difference by subscribing, rating, sharing us on social media, telling your friends, or by flying to Seoul, channeling a giant monster, and using it to throw Matt 1.5 miles through the air.
Oof. What a movie.
What a movie. Watch this shit, man. Watch it once.
Did you do any self-reflection when you saw this movie? Were you like, oh, man. You know?
I mean, yeah.
Were you like, because I think you don't personally want to be like either of these characters.
No. Oh, no. But you can, I'm sure most people can relate to both, at least in small ways.
I think it is one of those slippery slope things for either direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When a person, and it's exactly like what they sort of laid out in the movie, where it happens in childhood, and then you just slide one way or the other.
Dude, I think you're right, and I really like the point that you made that Gloria and Oscar are polar opposites. I hadn't really considered that they're like on opposite ends of the spectrum. This is a good movie.
Ideally, you want to be Eli Manning. You don't want to be any of his main characters.
No, you want to be a sweet, handsome dummy who hooks up with Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring up the music at this point.
Yeah, oh sure. Because otherwise we'll never stop talking about this.
We're just gonna keep talking about this movie from all the different angles, and I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, it's a better movie than it got credit for.
God, yeah.
Thank you, Riccio.
Yeah, thanks, Riccio.
Sign to Corna.
Corda.
Corda?